critical race theory. First of all, nobody has yet to tell me what that is. To me, it's just history. But like, you know, it's weird. And now we have our governor banning almost half the math books because they have, and I haven't seen
because they're
the
woke. Yeah.
Because they mentioned critical race theory, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, in what way would a math book? I am going to need to see the examples that got flagged because I haven't, and I don't understand how a math book in any way could be addressing critical race theory. Like, what is that?
Probably the math book mentioned that they're Arabic numerals and they got triggered by it because it's like, no, actually they're white man's numbers. Don't you? Don't you take away from that?
What is critical race theory?
The actual answer is that it's a subset of critical studies that came out of Harvard Law, and it is a legal discipline, essentially, which focuses on and critiques the idea that law can be written and applied in a race-neutral sense. So the predominant theory of law is the idea that when it's written and applied, you have the text of the law, and the text of the law is applied in a neutral and a like fair-minded sense. Like that's the presumption that's made. And the argument from critical race theorists is like, well, no. Like look back at the grandfather clause or poll taxes done in the South during the Jim Crow days. Like none of those laws mentioned black people. You know, there was nothing inherently racial about their content, but they were still designed to carve out, you know, a racial niche for white people to allow them to vote while putting up obstacles in front of black people. And literally, I mean, it's not that radical. There are some critical race theorists who have more radical propositions, but that's the case with any academic theory. It's honestly pretty hard, like borderline, I would say like just intuitive stuff. But when I debated Charlie Kirk on critical race theory right off the bat, credit where it's due, he conceded to me. He said, like, when I say critical race theory, you know, I don't actually mean like critical, I mean like just whatever, race wokeism, basically. And it's like, okay, we know that's what you mean, but
Yeah,
it pays the bills, Vaush. I mean, Charlie Kirk is a multimillionaire because he figured out a way to really cultivate that movement, and then he linked up with, you know, creating Turning Point USA. I mean, it's so much of it is a grift.
When I first saw the whole concept of critical race theory, I'm like, to me, that sounds like something you're teaching at a doctoral level involving like really complicated issues. But the way they're talking about it is that this is what they're trying to teach our children. And when I look at what they're talking about, it's literally just history.
A lot of it is literally just like very basic history that they do not want taught. They're lying when they say, when I say critical race theory, I mean the actual theory. When they say it, they legitimately do mean like you can't. And the funny thing is, the people who were behind, so the critical race theory thing, like nothing in our schools changed, everything was normal. And then all of a sudden the term critical race theory becomes this massive talking point. Hey, right before the presidential election, this massive talking point. And then right after the presidential election, it falls off. People don't talk about it anymore. Now we're coming up in the 2022 primaries. And wow, LGBTQ teachers grooming children by telling them gay people exist is like suddenly get libs of TikTok. Suddenly now we're hearing a lot about that. And it's being done by the same people. Christopher Rufo, James Lindsay, both of whom essentially admitted that the critical race theory thing was just a PR stunt to help them like associate people, associate to like the left, like every negative ascription people have about any race issue. They're doing it again. They admit that it's a grift, and it doesn't matter. They just keep doing it. It's incredible.
How do guys like James Lindsay, because I initially thought that he was, I see him as basically just trying to copy Jack Pacific, but you know, they're more or less 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. But it seems like a guy like that, you know, really shot up. And I saw Tim Pool had him on not too long ago. And people gravitate to this guy, but yet he actually such a fucking asshole. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I guess people like fucking assholes on social media. Is that what it is?
Oh, he's a loon. Like I actually think he's kind of crazy. James Lindsay's Twitter is like permanent schizo posting. It's like having a meltdown 24/7. Like none of the shit he says even makes sense. It's about how like coffee cups are Marxism because they condition your children to get used to holding cup mugs which are scrotum shaped, and that's homosexual, which is gay. Like it's just insane. Like it reads. I'm making that up, but it does read like crazy. You know?
No, the people on the right are really angry about these things. Like they're really angry people.
Vaush likes to point out a lot of that anger is a suppression of things that they don't want to repeat.
Well, absolutely it is. Why you only, like, if you really are comfortable with yourself and you're a content person, you don't have that much anger towards what other people do. Like it doesn't bother you. So obviously you have a lot of self-loathing if you can focus. I'm serious. People who are happy with themselves don't hate on people like that.
Yeah, I mean, people, at the end of the day, I actually think this is one of the biggest failures of the left. People care about what they're told to care about. You know, you can keep people in permanent economic deprivation, which, hey, here's the USA. They won't care about that if they're told not to. People are very susceptible, especially these days, to media conditioning. So the issue, I think, is that a lot of people on the left think like, okay, well, we need to appeal to these underlying issues like economic realities or whatever. You talk to a lot of Republicans, they do not give a fuck because they don't act out of rational self-interest. They care about the woke trans groomer Marxist threat destroying America. Like there's a big disconnect between like reality and what people care about oftentimes. So I think we need to do a better job of selling them that idea. Like it's not enough to just say, hey, things could be better economically, you're getting screwed over. Like you have to make them care. And we cannot do alarmism the way they can. I mean, a TikTok account, Libs of TikTok, or sorry, a Twitter account, Libs of TikTok, literally has been getting like massive amounts of money and attention. They just got hired by like the Babylon Bee. They've been on Tucker Carlson. And what are they? It's a Twitter account that posts left-leaning TikToks. That's it. And that outrage is all they need. It's the crux of their politics. It's very difficult to compete.
And I got to tell you, I've seen some of the content and I understand why people will react the way that they do and why they like that account. Because if you look, you see, and again, like you said, the left is a joke when it comes to cultivating support. Because the one thing the right is great at is finding the most obscure and out of sight, out of mind people on the left to paint them as the overall broad brush that is the left, which of course is not true. But if you really wanted to, you could have a conservatives acting crazy account and, find videos of, I remember this one, like, country bumpkin guy, I think it was in Utah, at the beginning of COVID, walking around without a mask on and coughing and spitting on people. And it's like, God, that guy's a freaking lunatic. What if we said everybody on the right is like that? Well, you know what? You'd probably get an account that would get a lot of juice from it. So again,
there's so much. Yeah, but we don't, because fundamentally, like, basing political prescriptions off a collection of anecdotes is like the political equivalent of a mental illness. If you could just see a couple of videos and just go like, oh, this must be a big deal, like your brain is mush. Like, we live in the modern world. Everyone has a cell phone. There are hundreds of millions of people. If you want to craft a narrative using anecdotes, you can craft anything. Literally anything. If you wanted to collect a bunch of videos of like teachers from like the Bible Belt who are really conservative posting on Facebook about how like they're teaching God in the classroom, which is a violation, by the way, of the constitutional rights of their students, like you could probably compile thousands of those, like without that much effort either. It wouldn't even be. Do you know how many classrooms there are that teach the lost cause myth? The idea that the Civil War started, the North started it, and it was over states' rights, and slavery was like a wedge issue. That's like, not only is that wrong and bad, that's like Confederate propaganda. You could find tens of thousands of teachers who have probably done that in the past decade alone. But the left doesn't do this. The right is the one that bases all of its outrage off just a collection of spurious anecdotes.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.